Boris Johnson said tonight that Donald Trump's state visit to London will go ahead despite a petition signed by almost 1.5 million people. 300,000 Londoners are among the number who signed to protest against the new president's travel ban for citizens of 7 Muslim countries. Hundreds have gathered tonight at Downing Street to voice their anger. Well, our political correspondent Simon Harris is there. Simon.
Charlene, President Trump's trip to London to see the Queen is still months away. But this perhaps is a small taste of what we and he can expect when the presidential circus comes to town. London's mayor thinks the invitation should be put on hold, but his predecessor at City Hall takes the opposite view. American presidents come and go, but when London rolls out the red carpet for the leader of the free world, the pageantry follows a fixed pattern, inspecting the Guard of Honour and a Buckingham Palace banquet. President Trump can expect all of this and more, because his visit is now guaranteed to spark protests and demonstrations. President Trump's security advisers will want to minimise his exposure to any threat, but his public relations team will want to maximise the opportunity. 35 years ago, another controversial Republican president, Ronald Reagan, pulled off the ultimate royal coup. He was invited to ride with the Queen at Windsor. For Team Trump, this is the stuff of dreams. But the new president's decision to sign a travel ban on Muslims and refugees has provoked a backlash this side of the Atlantic. By 10 o'clock this morning, an online petition calling on Downing Street to uninvite Mr. Trump had reached 1 million signatures.
Of course, Londoners, people from around the country who are unhappy with President Trump's ban will protest in lawful ways. That could be signing a petition, that could be protesting in other ways, that could be going on demonstrations and marches. That's the great thing about living in a democracy.
Demonstrations during a presidential visit are not new. There were protests when George W. Bush came to London shortly after the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Not that he saw them after the police helpfully cleared the pavements along the route of his motorcade. This could be the model for the Trump visit.
What we need to remember is Trump is also a very big terrorist target. So the police have not only got to worry about the protesters, but also a potential terrorist attack on Trump and his entourage.
A short time ago, Boris Johnson told MPs the state visit was still on.
It is totally right, of course, that the incoming president of our closest and most important ally should be accorded the honour of a state visit. That's supported by this government, and the invitation has been extended by Her Majesty the Queen quite properly.
Downing Street has yet to say when this year President Trump will come to London. Charlene, the real challenge for the police here in Whitehall tonight is not just to keep the crowd away from the gates at the front of Downing Street, but try to stop them from blocking the road. And I have to say, it's a task that is being met with very limited success right now. As you can imagine, there's an awful lot of rush hour traffic buses trying to get down Whitehall. But within the last 20 minutes, this crowd has really grown in size. The police have complained that they were only told about this demonstration this morning and have had no time to close the roads officially. So at the moment, we're in a position where there's a huge crowd here that's pretty well brought this part of the West End to a standstill. And we expect Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader, to be speaking to the crowd in a short while.
OK, Simon, thanks very much. Well, tonight's anti-Trump protest in Downing Street is the main story in London. Let's return to our political correspondent, Simon Harris, who's there. Simon.
Charlene, since we spoke last, the police have finally given up the rather futile attempt to keep the traffic flowing along Whitehall. The crowd has now grown so large that they've shut both north and southbound traffic. There are buses still stranded further up Whitehall. I think they've let the passengers off. It's hard to say just how big this crowd is from where I'm standing, right in the middle of Whitehall, just north of the Cenotaph, but it's well into the hundreds, probably into the thousands by now. Largely good-natured. There are speeches being made. The Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, is among those expected to address the demonstrators, but frankly, most people can't hear a thing. Back to you.
OK. Simon, thanks very much.
The Shadow Minister for London, Andy Slaughter, has become the latest Labour MP to indicate he'll defy Jeremy Corbyn and vote against triggering Article 50. MPs are debating the government's plans for Brexit in the Commons right now. Our political correspondent Simon Harris is here. How significant is this step today by Mr Slaughter?
Well, Nina, it's certainly another headache for the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, as he's confronted by this wave of London Labour MPs refusing to obey his three-line whip. Mr Slaughter has written to voters in Hammersmith saying, "I have always thought my first loyalty is to my constituents, and thousands have lobbied me to vote against the trigger." And he's not alone among the Labour rebels. Only last week, Tulip Siddiq, the MP for Hampstead and Kilburn, resigned her frontbench post as Shadow Education Minister. And today, in the debate in Parliament, we've heard from other Labour MPs like Meg Hillier, who says she's going to vote against triggering Article 50 because she fears for EU citizens living in her Hackney constituency.
These are people who live in our midst. They are our friends, they're our neighbours, they work in our public services, they are contributing to our economy. And I believe that people who are exercising their treaty rights today should be allowed to stay. They've made their lives here with every expectation that would be a permanent position. I think it would be magnanimous of the government to give way now.
Unlike Tulip Siddiq, Mr Slaughter hasn't indicated he's going to resign from Mr Corbyn's frontbench team, but of course he could be sacked. But I think most of the rebels are hoping that there will be so many of them that Mr Corbyn can't afford to get rid of them all.
All right, Simon Harris, thank you. Next tonight, we've had the Tour de France, we've had Formula One cars, but could horse racing be the latest sport to come to London streets? Two rival bidders are drawing up ambitious plans to host a race meeting in central London. The Mall is one of a handful of locations being considered, but as Simon Harris now reports, there are still plenty of hurdles to overcome.
Imagine charging down Constitution Hill at full speed, ignoring the 30-mile-an-hour limit, then tearing past Buckingham Palace and onto the Mall to the sounds of screaming crowds and galloping hooves, all on horseback. This is the vision being offered by two rival bidders hoping to bring nighttime horse racing to the streets of London. Andrew Owen is a director with the global sports consultancy CSM, one of the groups behind the ambitious plans.
The idea is to take horse racing away from its traditional venues and put it firmly in the city centre. Not just any city, but iconic city centre streets.
Street racing in London is not a new idea. There's long been talk of a Monaco-style Grand Prix. Demonstration events have given us a glimpse. And Buckingham Palace has served as a backdrop to prestige sport, marathons and memorably the Tour de France. But creating a racecourse presents a new challenge. Thoroughbreds clearly can't race on tarmac, so a synthetic track would cover the road. It would be laid in sections, assembled over 2 days like a giant scale X trick. Italy has a famous bareback horse race staged in a city centre, but the Palio di Siena can be a brutal affair. Promoters of a London race meeting insist it would be nothing like this. Animal welfare campaigners aren't reassured.
The proposals to have horse racing on the streets of London is absolutely ludicrous. I'm sure no citizen of London would want to see dead horses on their streets, and this is what we would get if this went ahead. This race, if it went ahead, would be even more dangerous than the Grand National.
Horse racing's governing body, the BHA, said it supported the idea in principle, but admitted there were significant hurdles.
Nobody's ever done it before, as far as I'm aware. Certainly not on the scale we're talking about, which is maybe a mile long. You know, it would be a massive undertaking, but the people behind it clearly think that the science, the technology is there to do it.
If the Mall does become a temporary racecourse, Britain's most famous racing fan will have the best seat in the house in Buckingham Palace. Simon Harris, ITV News, the Mall.